Hello, dear listener, and welcome to episode 13 of the Six Star Business Podcast. It's unlucky for some, but it's not for us. I'm Pete Daly-Dixon, one of your two co-hosts, and I'm joined as ever by my partner in crime, Evelyn Clark. How are you, Evelyn?
I'm great, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, super great. Early for me, getting on into the evening for you. What have you been up to today?
Today's been tremendously productive, very busy. I have been working on the detail of the launch of the Six Star Business community. So lots of busy worker bees all around that Queen Bee seems to be managing very well. But there's a lot going on. That's the bottom line.
And the only difference there, of course, is the queen bee in nature doesn't do very much except just lie there and get service. But
yeah, that's right.
There's not much lying around for you. Yeah,
No.
It is exciting how it's all coming together. And in fact, in talk about coming together, this episode is part of the launch, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Because the episode we're wanting people to listen to when they've actually put in their application to join us. It's just one of those pivotal episodes that we wanted everybody to listen to. And you'll know why after you listen to it. It is special. It's a special one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a special episode with two special people. Jussi Luukkonen from Finland, but living in Kiwi. He's one of that rare breed, a Finnish Kiwi, and also Dave Vrijsen, originally from Belgium, but now living in Sydney. Two guys at the top of their game, and they brought their A game to this episode. It's a good one as ever. So good, in fact, that it jumped the publication schedule and is in there to go out on the day that the waiting list becomes open for people to register their interest to join the Six Star Business community. So all that being said,
let's go. Yeah, enjoy.
Have your notepad there, take notes, and we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy. See you. Oh, here we are. Welcome, Pete, and welcome to our guest. It's really good to have you here on another episode of the Six Star Business Podcast. Who have we got with us?
Well, we've got Jussi Luukkonen. I hope I've pronounced that right. And Dave Vrijsen. So this is the Antipodean Scandinavian episode of the Six Star Business Podcast, I think. Great to have you guys.
Thank you.
So looking forward to our chat.
Welcome. Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited. This is obviously the first time I've met you, Jussi, and for our guests, first time, most of our guests, listeners, that is, to have met you too. To get started, it would be really nice to hear from both of you individually. Maybe just give us a brief introduction of where you're from, so where you are in the world at the moment, a bit of background, like what you do, how you serve the world, and anything else, sort of maybe something interestingly or personal about you that we would smile at, connect with. Who wants to go first?
Dave is the youngest one, so please.
Okay,
I'm happy to go first. Thanks, Evelyn. So my name is Dave. I'm originally from Belgium, and I came to Australia in 2010, where I started my own business, SageFlow, in 2014. So SageFlow is an international transformational management consultancy organization where we enable potential, improve performance, and save lives through our own expertise, but also in affiliation and collaboration with other people. The interesting fact about us is that the word international in our, let's say, business profile also relates to my personal situation, where every single member of our four-headed family is born in a different country. So that's pretty interesting.
And what are those countries?
Belgium, Spain, Switzerland, Germany and Australia.
Very cool. Jussi, how are you and who are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm sitting here in the windy Wellington, New Zealand. It's been a lovely day today. And originally, I am from Finland, but I've been living here in New Zealand already since 2006. My life has been in the intersections of creative industries and businesses and education. So first I was trained as a theater director, working for Finnish broadcasting companies, Radio Theatre, and then directing several plays for different theatres, Then I established with my young business partner the first digital design agency in Finland, 1991. So that was my 90s. And then when I came to New Zealand, I was headhunted to run a school, a media design school. So I was a head of school there. And now after several different, sideways, I came back to my roots. I'm a leadership coach and facilitator, and I love to work with demanding customers who want to have more creativity in their life and in their work and have a hunger for change, positive change and positive impact. So that's me at the moment. Oh, yes, and my family. I'm married to a Japanese lady, and we have a son who is now young adult man, 18 years old, Marius. So we are a tiny little piece of intercultural hustle here in New Zealand.
Wow. It really is an international episode. It's great. It's exciting. We're going global, fully global.
We are. I was going to say, if only I was born in a different country, then all of our family, our guests' families and us would be from different countries, Pete. So that's really cool that our guests
That's
both.
great, and it's going to add a really interesting dimension to the conversation around 6-star business. So let's kind of use that as a jumping off point into that. Both of you, UC and Dave, you heard about 6-star business either from the concept, that is either from Evelyn or myself, and both Av and I are really curious about what it is about that concept that kind of holds people's interest. Sorry, I'll put these teeth back in. I'm borrowing them for someone else. Holds their interest long enough to get them to come into this virtual space with us to talk about it. So Dave, what was it for you when you first heard the concept of 6-star business? What made you want to kind of give up this time to talk with us today?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very creative and innovative idea. It's a little bit like the 6-star hotel, right? And the 7-star hotel now in Dubai. And a lot of hotel chains have always been trying to be up at that 5-star level. And for businesses, it's exactly the same, right? So we're trying to look at a scale from 1 to 5. And if it's a 5-star business, we would think they're world class already, where you're actually challenging that and say, well, does it have to be this 5-star business model, or is there actually something additional what you can do in order to reach that 6-star excellence? And in our pursuit, from a business perspective of excellence, I think it's very intriguing and something that I'm looking to explore a little bit further and bring into my own business as well. So I think it's a very novel and innovative idea.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dave.
And I was curious when I met Pete for the first time. I kind of felt that we are on the same wavelength. And when you talked about this podcast, I became very curious, because quite often business podcasts, they are in a way quite narrow, and they are so businessy that there's a little like ugh coming when you listen these a bit too businessy things, or then they are so woo-woo that you don't even want to see trees anymore because you've been hugging them too much. So I was fascinated, especially when I listened to the latest episode about the multi-layered discussion, and the fact that the discussion was going quite naturally forward. People were very genuine and sincere in their way they talked about the things. And that brought to my mind a Harvard Business Review article I read today about the big shift that needs to happen in the way big corporates are governed, and it's not anymore shareholder value, it needs to be stakeholder value. But actually it is very difficult concept, because the balance of power doesn't allow any new concept. And I think this kind of podcast is one of those drops in the ocean that suddenly help to paint the ocean not as red ocean, but more like a blue ocean. If you remember, the blue ocean strategy was quite famous few years ago. So I think we need this kind of podcast. We need this kind of thinking and bringing back human beings in the business and human beings discussing about business, not just, having jargon or businessy, how to get $1 million in 12 hours. So I was intrigued, curious, and open.
It's the only way to be, isn't it? Really, in anything.
No, I think that's a pretty darn good recipe for life, being curious and open.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
difficult.
One of the things
Yeah.
Go on, Jussi, sorry.
Yeah, it's difficult, but it's funny because when you look at children, they are curious and open. And then what happens? When does it happen? We stop smiling. And always when I'm, for example, giving, keynote speeches and being in front of the audiences, you can see that when people are smiling, they are open and they take in. And they are not formulating inside their heads about counter arguments or whatever. And then they laugh when they have these eureka moments. Oh shit, this is cool. So we have too few smiles. We are too serious about everything, about ourselves.
What about business? Do you think we're too serious about business, Jussi?
Sorry, Dave. Go on.
Sorry, Dave. Go.
No, that's cool. Feel free, Jussi, to comment first.
Oh, this is awkward.
Dave, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go for it.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I just wanted to add to what Jussi was saying as well. Like, there's definitely a shift happening at the macroeconomic level from a trust perspective and how value is being perceived, right? So both from a business perspective, but also from an individual's perspective. So those kind of businesses that are able to generate sustainable value for every single individual within the organization and that it's aligned with their values and beliefs, those are really the ones I think are going to thrive going forward. Where the massive institutions of the past, everybody's a little bit conscious of the fact that from a trust perspective or from a value perspective even, it has been eroded over the last couple of decennia and it's only getting worse, right? So we're looking at any kind of institutions where businesses and especially business owners that are purpose-driven and are looking at adding value to every single customer, those are the ones that are, in my opinion, are going to really thrive going forward.
Yeah, and then a strong sense of purpose, because you can't, the value itself is nothing without a purpose. And if the company has a clear purpose, if the owners, if the senior leaders of the company, they have clear sense of purpose, then the values become kind of living and organic things and not just, something that are on the wall. And the value that has been developed for the stakeholders and customers and everybody that is connected to that environment, then it has not just monetary value, but it just expands the value to wider levels of life. I think
it's interesting, but both of you have used that word purpose a couple of times in what you've been talking about. It's one of these words, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, find your purpose and purpose this and purpose that. But what do we actually mean by it? So let's just make sure that we're all on the same page. And then when Dave says purpose, you see Av and me, we all have the same picture in our mind, and vice versa. So Dave, when you use that word purpose in the context of a business, what do you actually mean?
Yeah, well, so if you take my own business, right, SageFlow, it's really built around my own values, beliefs, and principles, where the purpose of the organization itself needs to be 100% linked to those elements for myself, but also for the customers in which I'm working very hard in order to add value to them as well, right? So if I was saying in the intro, enabling potential, improving performance, and saving lives, for me, that's really the key purpose of why we're existing, right? And every single element of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis needs to be 100% aligned with one of those three key elements in our purpose statement or value proposition.
Can you say them again, and just say them really slowly, because they're so embedded in you that they kind of almost sound trite as they come off. But yeah, so just give them to us again, and let's kind of unpack it possibly. Yeah.
All right. So the first one is enabling potential.
Okay.
Improving performance, and saving lives. So for each of those three, we have very distinct programs and elements of our value proposition and very distinct target audiences as well. However, each of those three are 100% aligned with our values, beliefs, and principles, both from a foundational values perspective, but also from an organizational values perspective.
So how do you communicate those to your people and stakeholders and customers? Do you have a clear communication strategy you follow, or what's the way you? Because I love those values. It's really music to my ears. But I'm curious to know, how do you communicate them?
Yeah, so it really depends a little bit on the target audience themselves. So because they're quite distinct, we will emphasize one of the elements or one of the values more than some of the other ones, obviously. And we would unpack it a little bit like Simon Sinek saying, like, why we do what we do, and then go on to the how and then the what we're doing in order to add tremendous value to our clients on a day-to-day basis, whether it's from an individual's perspective or from an organizational perspective as well. So it's looking from the inner circle and then outwards in order to truly help our clients to either identify what is the key pain that they have, what their current state is, but also where do they want to go and what do they want to realize, for us to build a value proposition around that and implement that together with the client, shoulder to shoulder, in a sustainable manner. And not just tell them, based on our analysis, here is our report, just follow it from A to Z, and you'll be perfectly fine, right? So we have a couple of colleagues in the market that love to do that, where we really value the customer experience and working normally with clients anywhere between 6 months and 3 years, depending on the overall value proposition and depending on each of the elements. Some of them are shorter, some of them are about 3 years' time.
I don't know about it, but one aspect of your purpose statement which intrigues me the most is saving lives. I mean, you often hear, well, at least in business, it's not a matter of life and death, is it? No one's going to die, if this report isn't done or whatever. But so what? How and why is that a key part of your purpose? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually that you mentioned it, because most people would say, that's the most intriguing element of the three of them, where the enabling potential component has way more potential and a bigger reach than the saving lives element. Because the saving lives element, where we have core expertise in working with high hazardous environments and literally saving lives on a day-to-day basis within a corporate environment, where unfortunately still fatalities happen in a lot of companies, even in Australia, right? Where we would have thought, safety is not such a big deal anymore, and everybody should feel safe going to work and have at least a 99 to 100% chance of returning from their workplace in a safe manner. So unfortunately, that's not yet the case, where our expertise and the way in which we work together with them enables in order to really truly save lives, or at least reduce the number of incidents that they're having, either from a life-altering or life-changing, life-ending circumstance.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a few years ago I was part of the organization where bullying was a kind of norm, and the environment was really toxic. And then there was suicide, and that caused shockwaves through the whole of company. And actually, when you said that saving lives, I was just thinking that situation, because if those people who were involved helping that person, if they had been more open to the situation and caring more, that life would have been saved. And it was directly connected to the toxic environment of the company. And in here, unfortunately, bullying is part of the business culture more than I think anywhere else I have seen. I don't know how it is in Australia or UK. I know that in Finland it's not even close to the level where it is here, but it is a serious problem. And everyone who is working on any level of strategy needs to keep it in mind, because
Absolutely.
every action has a reaction.
Yeah. And to build on that as well, you see what we're seeing now, with what happened with COVID, for example, psychological safety within organizations. It's a very hot topic, and for the right reasons, right? So we implement a tool within organizations in order to measure their psychological safety culture, or at least the level of psychological safety within an organization. COVID, among other things, has had a massive impact on that.
Yeah. And it will continue having that impact, because I think we haven't seen anything yet. It is the big wave of the change is coming towards, it's like a tsunami, and we are still, playing with our sandcastles. It's coming.
Sure.
What's coming in particular? What are you referring to there?
The big change through the way COVID-19 has forced businesses, societies, people, and everything in the world, work and interact with each other. So this pandemic has surfaced all those false assumptions that we have had so dearly in our minds for decades. And climate change, pandemic, all those things, they are man-made or human-made. And now the tsunami is that big wave of consequences that are hitting us because we have planted those seeds for the tsunami come. So we have caused this earthquake decades, and below the surface, we've been so reckless in our business decisions, because we thought that because it's under the surface, it's there deep down in nobody cares. We can pollute, we can be terrible to each other, whatever, because on the surface, it's still nice ocean and sun is setting and rising. But now that the seismic change has caused this tsunami, and like I said, we are still playing with our sand castles and our buckets and things like that, and big tsunami is coming. And like I said, we haven't seen anything yet. It is still coming.
I do see some positives from, right? Also from COVID, and exactly what you're saying, you see, where individual preferences and the being flexible in the way that people are working is a massive shift, right? Where before the organizations were dictating the way in which they wanted people to work, where now they're at least open to listening to their people in the way in which they want to work, and trying to be flexible around that as well. So there's lots of positives as well as part of that tsunami that you mentioned.
You can survive the tsunami if you acknowledge that it's coming, and then you can ride on that wave. You can prepare for the tsunami and use it as propel you to the new level of, I would say, consciousness. And it's an opportunity. But if we don't see it, if we don't acknowledge it, if we deny it, then it will eat us alive.
Yes.
Too many metaphors, I think.
So you see, there's a number of different metaphors and rabbit holes to go down there. But I'm wondering, what are your thoughts if I was to say, okay, what's your advice or suggestion for a business who is really consciously aware of the last year? They've made a lot of changes. They're doing everything they can to not only survive but thrive, make a difference. They've uncovered their purpose and they're working on all those things. What do they need to do to be ready for the tsunami?
Well, I've been reading a lot recently. Ray Dalio's The Principles book and listening his talks. I like the idea of radical openness and radical transparency, because we need to learn to take on board feedback and comments and whatnot from every level of the organization, and not use those organizational structures and hierarchies to hide away from the truth. So the radical transparency and radical openness are, I think, one of those key elements how to survive and how to thrive and find those new opportunities. But then comes also those personal responsibilities, personal growth and transformation. And my personal value, which when I started my own one-man band few months ago, after years in corporate life, I decided that everything I do needs to have positive impact for transformation through compassion, wisdom, and courage. So I think those compassion, wisdom, and courage are the things that leadership needs to start to think. Compassion doesn't mean in my vocabulary being, kind of woo-woo or empathetic, because empathy is quite often, I can be, I feel you, yeah, and doesn't mean anything. Compassion is an act of doing something for things, but compassion can become just self-sacrificing thing unless you have wisdom to see what's real, what's not real, what are the assumptions that are false assumptions, and keep us not going forward. And Nonaka and Takeuchi, I love their book The Wise Company, because it's so filled of this decades long of research and wisdom, and then summarizes thousands of years of Western philosophy. The wisdom needs to be there, and we need to get wisdom back to our vocabulary. And then the courage is, like name suggests, the courage to take action, even though sometimes that action can be not so favorable. So there needs to be in leadership this kind of humility and vulnerability, but also power to act. And when you use your compassion and wisdom, then your courageous actions take yourself to the right direction, and you have positive impact, and you can transform things. So that's how I feel it. So does it make any sense to you guys?
It's a very clearly articulated purpose.
Yeah, and I fully agree with what you're saying. I also read the Ray Dalio book, and I fully agree with the radical openness, radical transparency component. The main difference, I think, in terms of how it's being perceived now in relation to how it was probably perceived about even 10 years ago, is that he's also talking about, okay, who do you ask, right? In terms of being open. It's just anybody, or those individuals that have shown that they have a track record in which they have at least 3 wins, right? So and if you look at the newer people coming onto the job market, and even the millennials as well, the emphasis and importance that they're putting on not just the organizational values being aligned with their own personal values, they also demand that radical openness and radical transparency from organizations. And the more traditional ones are not really open to do that.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
haven't cracked that nut yet. So that will be an interesting evolution as well, I think.
Yeah, the term that Ray Dalio is using is ideas meritocracy, which is very interesting, because okay, everybody can have an opinion, but then like Ray Dalio somewhere wrote that you have kind of credibility if you have done it successfully at least 3 times. Then you can say, yep, I know something about this. And somebody who comes right from the university and is full of ideas, it's perfectly all right to express those ideas and discuss. But when it comes to the decision making, we need to weigh in some way those opinions. Otherwise, it's just, who shouts the loudest.
Correct.
Mm.
Absolutely.
That can be,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly the model we used within SageFlow. I'm not the one who has all the answers. Radical openness in order to be questioned and to leave it all also to others in order to provide ideas, decisions, bring their arguments to the table, to truly work together as a team and not having that kind of hierarchical structure. Even though I'm the boss and everybody knows, but at the same time, everybody's really being asked and motivated in order to speak up and bring their ideas to the table, for sure.
And then you get this purposeful belonging. People need to belong to some organization, some society, somewhere. And if that workplace is the place where you belong, feel that you belong there, and if you have a clear purpose, that purposeful belonging will lead to really fulfilling environment, and people feel fulfilled. And with less energy they get more done, and it has more value. Whereas those companies like you, Dave, know when you go to your company, you can smell, there's toxic environment or this very hierarchical thing, and you can see that, okay, it takes a lot of energy to make anything happen in some organizations. Where some organizations, it's like you drop a pin, and suddenly it's not just pin dropping, but it's huge waves that start to ripple out from that point where you drop the pin. And that's interesting because technology allows us to drop those pins. And millennials, they are all about dropping pins, not just building some sort of fence.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly if we have people that want to join our organization. I want them to join because of the purpose that we have, and not because I'm part of that organization, right? So it's real purpose driven. It's not my organization. It's built around the purpose, and if they feel that they can add value and that they relate to that purpose, great, excellent. If not, then might be the right place for you to work.
So you're saying, are you saying, Dave, that having a clearly articulated purpose in the way that you do is allowing you to attract more better, in inverted commas, employees?
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah. It is absolutely so. When I was a theater director and running my own theater company, there were people who wanted to come to that theater company because it had really strong purpose and really, ambitious goals. And people came, they wanted to be part of that kind of community, even though it was really demanding and it wasn't easy, and people were sweating. And in business life, when you have this kind of purposeful belonging and you have this really clearly articulated purpose statements and goals, it becomes like a magnet. And people want to come to work, even though it can be much harder to work for that kind of company than just normal corporate. Because you get so much more, because there's always that kind of organization helps you to stretch your goals. There's always this, like in high performing sports, you need to stretch always your goals. And I've been reading a lot of Cameron Schwab's. Do you guys know Cameron Schwab? He's Australian guy. He wrote this book, More to the Game, and this is one of the best leadership books I've ever had, because he is CEO, he is an artist, he has had his mental health issues, and he's been leading winning rugby teams. And he put all that wisdom together in that book. It's fascinating to read. And that book just tells you that all those coaches, all those teams that are winning, they are like magnets. You sweat like hell. You have been, put in the place where you hardly can breathe because it's so hard. But boy, when you get over those things and you achieve those goals, it's a totally new game. And then, yes, stretch goals. And not, you need to have a safe environment to fail. But that the safety doesn't mean that you need to create an environment where it's comfortable. Safety doesn't mean comfortable.
Yeah. And to your point as well, Pete, that you mentioned before, Vishen Lakhiani wrote a book called The Buddha and the Badass. It's a tremendous book. I can recommend it to anybody that really wants to build a purpose-driven organization. And it's a phenomenal book. I love Vishen for everything that he does, but especially that book is highly recommended.
We like all of these conversations on the 6-Star Business Podcast, we have no idea where they're going to go when we push the roller coaster off the top of the height at the beginning. But knowing you as I do, this conversation around purpose must be music to your ears.
Yeah, look, I'm literally sitting back just really engaged and excited, and just allowing it to unfold naturally and organically. I have a question, and it's open to both of you. Back to radical openness. In terms of trying to get a company to prepare for the tsunami, or level up, or rise to a 6-star level, how does a business deploy radical openness? How does that look? Is that with staff? Is it with just themselves? Is it with their customers?
Concrete steps.
All of them.
Yeah, and there's one word that comes to my mind: engagement. You need to engage and not close doors or create strategies in a boardroom. You need to go out and engage with every stakeholder group. You need to learn from the world before the world, shows that your old doctrines are wrong. So if you want to be ahead of the tsunami, you need to learn where it is coming from and what kind of water masses are there coming towards you. Then you can surf. But go there, find from people. They will tell you.
I think challenge yourself within the boardroom, but also within the organization and together with your customers as well, right? So prepare for the worst, plan for the best, and looking at ways in which you can overcome it. And has been eye-opening for a lot of organizations, but also in a good way, right? Where now there are way more adept in order to, let's say, the businesses that are still here are here for a reason, right? So they are stronger because of it, and also know what they need to do, both within the organization, but also on how they're serving their clients going forward. So I think that's another positive element of COVID. And obviously, the four of us are still here, so we're doing things right.
And it reminds always to the businesses and everybody that you need to think whether you are here for the short game or long game. Correct. COVID will kill short games because you can't survive in a changing world trying to put plasters in every place and trying to cut corners. You need to be here on a long-term base, and you need to play the long game. I just today closed one deal with my customer, and actually it is 18 months engagement, because they know that to really solidify and make sure that transformation happens, it is not 1 quarter, it's not 2 quarters. To change, for example, culture, I think there's research about it, that it will take at least 18 months to really start to build those new habits, new mindsets, new ways of doing. It's a long game, and 18 months is still short. Some Japanese companies, well, the oldest company, hotel or inn there, is 1,300 years old, and they are still going strong. And the success of the secret of their success is that they have always been able to transform their business.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't happen by looking inside. You look outside.
See, I wasn't making it up, Av, when I mentioned it.
I think it's a great topic to debate, right? Like, especially like from a resilience perspective, but also coming back to the purpose-driven organizations. And what Jussi is saying, those organizations that are in it from an infinite game perspective, like Simon Sinek mentioned so nicely, those are the ones, it doesn't matter what comes your way, right? Like everybody is having a bad rap once in a while,
Yeah.
but those ones that are purpose driven have the resilience in order to overcome it. And because they believe so strongly in the overall purpose that they will weather the storms, rather than saying, okay, we're a finite organization with specific goals. We have not met those goals. Shareholders are breathing in our neck and saying, okay, it needs to be better next time. And you don't really have control over that in a lot of cases, especially through COVID, etc. Right? So it's pointing, all those components are pointing exactly to what Evelyn and myself, Pete and Jussi believe is going to be the future of business, I think.
And it's funny because Eliyahu M. Goldratt, who has created the theory of constraints, he had his final work before he died was this ever flourishing company, because he said that, you know, the growth can be infinite. And then it can be infinite because in the nature, everything works towards a win-win situation. There's no conflict in nature. And if we run businesses like nature, we are not competing. And the verb compete comes from Latin word competere, which means to seek together. In Western cultures, we think that competing is fighting each other. But actually, the original meaning is to seek together. So we need to learn as communities and companies not to fight, but to seek.
So collaborate, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by in nature there's no conflict?
Well, everything, you know, it's not a conflict, it's an occurrence, and everything adapts to that. And Nichiren Daishonin, the 13th century Japanese monk, he said that the nature of universe is that of compassion. Everything tries to protect life. And I think it's a beautiful idea that everything in nature tries to protect life, even if the lion has to eat a zebra. But, you know, it's this circle of life and protecting, you know, life as a big thing, not just individual, you know, when I die, but the life is eternal. My life is part of this big and eternal life. And it's compassion that then carries us.
I think this podcast has just reached yet another depth of profundity and meaning, which is wonderful. That's what it's about. What's the point of having conversations unless you can go deep?
That's it.
Just a shame we've only got an hour to do it.
Oh, have we already?
That's come up more than once. The conversation, remember the one we had with Brian and Marusha? We could easily have gone for another couple of hours. It was an engaging, meaningful, deep conversation about things that matter. Do you think it's possible to be a 6-star business and not have a clearly articulated? Okay, I'll start that again. I'll edit that bit out. I'm in charge of the edit, so I can get rid of it. Do you think it's possible to be a 6-star business and not have a clearly articulated purpose in the way, Dave, that you and Jussi have?
No, I don't
No.
think so. They'll be limited to the 5 stars at best.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they will be there are plenty of companies who make some money, even big profits for now, but they are irrelevant. And in the bigger, longer game, nobody will remember them anymore. Only those companies will remain that, take humankind forward. And it is not a coincidence that through the history, we don't remember so many great business people. We remember artists, we remember composers, we remember poets. And I think we need to find a way to put art back in business and business in art.
I really love that. I'll take you up on that challenge, Jussi. I'd like to have that. Maybe that's another conversation.
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah.
And if there is a fitting way to bring this particular conversation to a close, it seemed that is as good as any. But I think I speak for all of us, and I hope for you, dear listener, as well, that you would like to this conversation to carry on. But we are reaching the top of the hour. Av, any final thoughts? I mean, the reason I reflected back to you earlier is just knowing how much it means for businesses to have a clearly articulated purpose. It's just fascinating to me that that's the way this conversation has gone.
Absolutely. And, Pete, you and I earlier today were talking about this in different aspects. So it's not only enjoyable, fascinating, but I just love the way the universe brings the people together at the right time, because you guys randomly chose to be on this podcast episode together. And here we are talking about this topic that is so important. And what you've just shared in the last 5 minutes is simply that to be 6-star, you absolutely need to be purpose-driven. You need to have a clearly articulated purpose. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you both shared your genius today and shared that with our listeners.
Yeah, and let's get that take 2 of the conversation scheduled. Let's go down to the pub and have another bottle of wine together.
Sounds good.
UC, Dave, thanks so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you today.
Thank you so much. It was a
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
I don't know at what point we'll get in. I've just hit record now because we were talking, and in fact, let's do that. Is that when we finish the episode, we should hit stop, say goodbye to the guest, and then hit record straight away, because we need to capture those initial thoughts. And what I just said then, which maybe hit record, is I had shivers running up and down my spine for a large part of that conversation.
Yeah, I was completely, whilst I was dealing with my children and the dog traipsing in and out, and finally they left and banged the front door, which is why I was on mute most of the time until 5:35. Apart from that, I felt the same way. It was it was fascinating, the journey we went on. Dave kind of softly it took him a bit to open up. And then he opened up more and more. And then because of UC's expressiveness, and he just dived straight in and talked about the tsunami, it was like he just allowed that radical openness to occur in this conversation, which then blasted open the conversation even further. And I think that's when Dave really went deep and was able to open up and talk more about his purpose and how they live it. And it just went from there.
But how does it work, though, at a universal, energetic, whatever level you want to think about, that literally before we got on the call, with the podcast call with UC and Dave, you and I were talking about the structure of the 6-star business community. And we had just decided that the entry point is for everyone coming into the 6-star business community to go through a 4 or 5 week, we haven't figured it out yet, 4 or 5 week program about purpose and principles.
Yep.
So that we can ensure that everyone in the 6-star business community is on the same page as far as that's concerned. And then we record a podcast episode where one of the guests who, no, I didn't know that's what he thought. I didn't know about his purpose. I didn't know it was so clearly articulated. I didn't know that he practiced radical openness in his business. He clearly articulated, if you do not have a purpose, a clear purpose, a well-articulated purpose, I've used that word too often in this rant, you will only be a 5-star business at best. And then UC said, and you could be a 5-star business, you will make profits, but they will be meaningless. Without a purpose, they're meaningless.
And you won't last.
And you won't last, and then you will die, basically. How does that work? How did that happen just then?
How does it work? It works like this. It's just part of the divine intelligence that we cannot comprehend, understand, manipulate, or anything. And so when it happens, it is literally pieces just falling into place because we're in the right place at the right time and things just fall into place. Could you imagine if we'd had, say, episode number 1 guests tonight? Like, think about the vast polarity between episode 1 and the episode we've just had. And that should be enough to show you that things happen when they're meant to happen. That's my learned understanding of this.
And that's not to discount in any way the quality of the conversation we had in episode 1. I mean, that got it started. And that was what I was going to say, is that's the other part of it, is that you can't wait for the kind of experience to happen today that happened, our conversation about the 6-star business community. And I'm on week 4 of the community design masterclass, figuring out how to structure and design our community, and then have that conversation about purpose. We would not be in that position unless you and I had that first conversation with Matt and Joanne back in March. So listener, dear listener, we love you for being here with us. Whatever you are thinking of starting, start it. Just do it. Don't wait a moment longer, because the magic that Av and I have experienced today, which is definitely going to go into our memoirs at some point. And I'm so glad we're recording, just at a meta level, just recording all these conversations, because they're part of our story. Whatever it is that you've had on the back burner for a while, you've been thinking about, talking about with friends, just start it. Just give that boulder or roller coaster, just give it a little bit of a push, get it moving, get some action. And then those actions will have consequences, as Jussi was talking, and then they'll have others. And then, in 3 months' time, you find yourself in a situation where one minute you'll have a conversation over here, and the next minute you'll have a conversation over here, and it will just be like, oh my God, how is that happening so seamlessly?
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow, Pete. Thank you, Mike.
Well, same time, same place next week, or I don't know at what point we're going to go to 2 episodes a week. So we'll see you here for another conversation on the 6-Star Business Podcast soon, very soon.
We will. Thank you. Ciao for now.